Google CEO Sundar Pichai announcing plans to incorporate AI into its search engine to improve search query responses. Pichai also dismissing the notion that chatbots like ChatGPT pose any threat to Google's search business, which generates over half the company's revenue. Joining us now is Mark Mahaney, Evercore ISI head of internet research. Mark, great to have you with us. Before we delve, strictly into this sort of AI race that seems to be going on, I'm wondering just in general for technology, when you have, an Alphabet up roughly 22% year to date, an Amazon up 22% year to date, and you see what's going on with rates and the economy, how concerned are you in terms of just the macro backdrop for the sector?
Definitely concerned. It's a consumer discretionary sector much more than anything else. That said, the setup for this year for tech stocks in general, and maybe particularly for internet stocks, was estimates had been de-risked and multiples had been de-risked. And what's new in town for technology stocks and internet stocks are all these job cuts, which I think create these EPS slingshot opportunities. So when revenue reaccelerates, it's going to be off a lower cost basis. You get these EPS slingshot plays. So the setup was very constructive, or we called it tactically constructive at the beginning of the year. We think it still is. And we look at a few of these names that, especially like you didn't mention Meta, but Meta's a big AI play, believe it or not. And it's only trading at 13 times GAAP earnings. So there's still an interesting, we think, tactical, constructive play on tech, and particularly on consumer internet, given how roughly the stocks were treated last year. That's the constructive setup for this year.
Where are we in that slingshot, Mark? Are we still pulling back? When are we going to release that slingshot to see that sort of recovery?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that. I think it's probably the end of this year, unless you've got something really specific in terms of product cycles. You're not going to get revenue growth reacceleration until the beginning of 24. But there are a few companies that are an exception to that. Netflix is one because of this basic with ads product that they're rolling out. And Facebook's the other one because they do have three product cycles that are going on now. One is, better monetizing these Reels videos, and then improving their core ad tech stack, their ad attribution models post all of that Apple privacy shock that the system hit last year. And then third is this click-to-message ad opportunity that they have that's, I think, really differentiated. But I do think you mentioned we started off with AI. I'm increasingly looking at this as a real positive influence or opportunity, I guess, for a good number of these names. As AI tools get introduced, AI processes get rolled out, you should see greater efficiencies and greater tools for both their consumer customers and for their marketing or advertising customers. I think there's a real positive play here. It's kind of a theme I think that's going to build up as we go through the year.
Yeah, there's so much, when you think about AI, there's so much thought to how the consumer, how its end user will interact with AI, as opposed to how the companies will use AI to increase efficiency. So from that standpoint, Mark, I mean, whether it be used for, to help programming or to help match advertisers with space, which companies have the most lever to that aspect? Because that seems like the lowest hanging fruit for the use of AI in terms of the impact on the balance sheet.
Well, the unfair advantage that some of these companies are going to have is their scale. And so in order to succeed in AI, you need at least three things. You need access to massive data pools so you can train the algorithms. So that gives you Amazon, Google, Facebook. Then you need access to an enormous amount of capital because it's expensive. Those three companies come up again. And then you need access to large pools of engineering talent that are really focused on AI. Or look at the places that have filed the most patents when it comes to AI. Microsoft is definitely up there. So is Google and so is Facebook. So it's usually the larger companies that are going to have the advantage when you have a technology innovation or a change that's this large in size, because it requires resources that most mid-tier companies can't touch.
How do you view AI as a catalyst for Meta versus a potential ban on TikTok?
Well, I think they're both probably. Catalysts for Meta. We think our house view is that a ban of TikTok is less than a 50% outcome, but it's up materially. If we'd asked us a year ago, we would have said less than 5%. Now it's probably in that 40% range. So that's a clear-cut catalyst. I think AI is something that really plays out over time. But you mentioned something earlier. I think is a really interesting play for Meta, which is chatbots. And a company that owns the two largest messaging applications in the world, that has 1 billion people on a weekly basis that messages with businesses and businesses messages with those consumers. Like if you can get in the middle of that and allow businesses a way to reduce their customer service costs, get people off the call centers, and then also use bots as a way to kind of provide better services from businesses to consumers. If you've got the messaging app that's in the middle of all this, there's a real opportunity, and that's why this. I think that's a driver behind their click-to-message app.
Hey, Mark, is this a winner? Is this a winner takes all? I played with ChatGPT 4 all weekend with my kids and friends. We were going and doing all sorts of crazy things with it. Are you of the view that something else could come along that can learn large language models like this that'll be just as good? Do you think Bard will be as good as OpenAI? Do you think there's going to be 10 of these things or 2 of these things?
Just because of the capital requirements and you need a large pools of data, I don't think there are 10 of these things. I bet you there'll be 2, 3, or 4 of these things that really kind of get played out, and we'll see which one wins. We've done our best at Evercore to kind of experiment with all of these. I still think you can find the flaws if you look for them in the models, and the use cases are still somewhat limited for the vast majority of people who go to Google to do search. The vast majority of people are not looking for large language model responses to the question of where's the closest golf course. How do I get round trip tickets to Hawaii? Things like that. But I think you'll find more and more use cases, and it's very unclear to me who's got the best technology right now. I've just been really impressed with what Microsoft has done.
Mark, thanks. Good to see you. Mark Mahaney.
Thank you, Melissa.